I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, and welcome to a Tuesday edition, right? Yeah, Tuesday edition. It has been a long week already. Don't get me started on this week. It's a Tuesday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Yoakley with you here live from the Athletics Studios in East Palestine. We got a good one for you, and you smell that? It's November. The pumpkin spice has been put on the side burner as far as I'm concerned, and we turn things over to Tom the Turkey as we get ready for the month that is filled with nothing but Thanksgiving and stuffing and turkey and cranberry sauce. And, I mean, you name it. Like, I hold no hostages when it comes to Thanksgiving turkey and the Thanksgiving dinner table, obviously. I mean, I'm not as chubby as I once was, but I'm as chubby once as I ever will be. So that's how the song goes, right? Isn't that how it goes? We got a good show for you. Happy November to each and every one of you. It's still football season. That is still in the air wherever you are. You're still able to catch some pigskin. It's still volleyball season. We got some volleyball games coming up on Thursday with a lot on the line. Anthony Hartwig will have you covered for the Crestview game. And then we will have Gary and the crew down covering Wellsville as well. Really excited. The anticipation continues to burn here on YSN. We wish well every one of our soccer teams as well. We don't want to leave them out, certainly. It has been a fun season. It has been a record-breaking season. It has been a great fall sports season for so many of our teams, and we want to keep that going. But the topic we're going to talk about today, after On This Day in Sports History, it's concerning. It's concerning. And it's going to be another one of my, I think, rants. But I'm going to put a lot of information behind it that should concern you, whether you're a parent, whether you're a high school athlete, whether you're a middle school athlete especially, whether you're a coach, and whether you're an official or an administrator. You're going to want to hear this topic because I've told, if you're in the inner circle and we've had conversations about this, get ready for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night football. And there's some in our camp, myself being one of them, that it makes our load a little bit lighter during the week. But there are some concerns about extending out football for 3 days because of the impending what right now looks like an absolute certain officiating shortage. We've glazed over this topic before. We're going to dig into it because I think there's a lot of people that don't really understand what's at stake. What's at stake here? There's a ton going on that people don't realize they're going to have to give up and sacrifice more than just Friday nights. We're going to look at what the pros have done. Pros don't have a shortage. College doesn't have a shortage. High schools, middle schools have officiating shortages, and it is not looking very good. So the adjustments that need to be made, we'll talk about the pros, we'll talk about the cons, and we're just going to give general information as we see it. And we've got some cited sources to tell you about, one of them being the NFHS and some statistics that are eye-opening. And we're going to talk about that all coming up right after this on the Power Hour. But first, on this day in sports history, here we go. That didn't work. All right, so on this day in sports history, here we go. In 1964, on the 1st of November, Cleveland running back Jim Brown runs for 140. Let's start this over again. In 1964, Cleveland running back Jim Brown runs for 149 yards in the Browns' 30-17 win at Pittsburgh to become the first NFL player to exceed 10,000 yards rushing in a career. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, Richie and I talked about it yesterday. The Cleveland Browns took on the Cincinnati Bengals, and what I saw was complete domination. And to quote Sandra Bullock in The Blind Side, run the dang ball. And the Browns did it. They got Nick Chubb, who people are crowning as, and I heard this last night, I giggled a little bit, the greatest Browns running back of all time. Now, I will give credit where credit is due. Nick Chubb is a very good running back. Very good. One that I was pleading for the Steelers to take well before Najee Harris. I think, as good as Nick Chubb is, he is a far cry from Jim Brown, as maybe even more running backs in there before he even threatens Jim Brown's crown as the Browns' all-time running back. Because at the end of the day, folks, and I will give, again, this young man who spoke this nonsense into existence, he doesn't know Jim Brown. I wasn't around for the Jim Brown years, but I understand history and have read up enough to know that you respect a guy like Jim Brown that not only could be considered the greatest Browns running back of all time, for certain, but one of the greatest running backs of all time. So that got me thinking, who could be in that same sentence as Jim Brown as the greatest running back in the National Football League history? So did a little searching, and here's what I've come up with. And there's a bunch of names on here, but I'm going to go over what I consider the top 10. And it aligned up with one of them perfectly. Maybe not in this particular order, but here's my 10 to 1. 10 to 1. Curtis Martin, who I had the pleasure of interviewing last year, was a thrill for me. And Curtis Martin, to me, is in a top 10 of greatest running backs of all time. Like, at 10, he's the guy. Curtis, my favorite Martian. Excuse me. Patriots, Jets, got it done. Pro Football Hall of Fame, naturally. Don't know that. I don't think he ever won a Super Bowl. And yes, that is going to kind of prohibit some of the running backs that I think are in the top 10. Jerome Bettis would be my 9. Jerome Bettis is, I think, he's an outlier. There aren't running backs that were built like Jerome Bettis. They're all slim and trim and just absolute, just chiseled. And then you got the bus, who is every bit of probably an offensive guard with the football. And this guy did amazing things. When you look at Jerome Bettis, as a Steelers fan, I know I'm already getting it. I could probably hear it. I haven't even looked at the comments. A guy who, started with the Rams, got traded to the Steelers, Pro Football Hall of Fame, Super Bowl XL, so Super Bowl 40. And what he did, he ranks up like 91 rushing touchdowns, 15,000 yards from scrimmage. 13,600 rushing yards, 192 games. I mean, the dude is easily in the top 10. If you ask me, this is my personal top 10. Then you get down to 8. To me, the 8 spot belongs to Earl Campbell. You know what he did with the Oilers and the in New Orleans. Didn't play as much. His career wasn't quite as long. 74 rushing touchdowns, but the way that he did it, the dude is an all-timer, and he's on the NFL top 100 all-time team. So who am I to say that he's not? Eric Dickerson, again, one of the best running backs in the history of the sport. Played for the Rams, Indianapolis, the Raiders, and Atlanta. 13,000 rushing yards. He has 4.4 yards per carry, 90 rushing touchdowns, and he did it all in 146 games. In today's NFL, that's what? Not even 10 years? That's pretty impressive. Adrian Peterson is on there for me. A lot of people poo-poo AP. But the dude lives up to his moniker, which is all day. He was for years and years and years, and probably up to last year, 2 years ago, still one of the top backs. I would say maybe not the top back 2 years ago, but one of the top backs for his career. The dude was an absolute machine. Almost 15,000 rushing yards, 17,000 all-purpose yards, 126 total touchdowns, and he did it on some bad teams, some really bad teams where you can't rush the ball because you're down points. Marshall Faulk, same thing. Faulk has 19,000 all-purpose yards. He's got 100 rushing touchdowns right on the dot, 136 total touchdowns. Hall of Famer as well. LaDainian Tomlinson. These are guys that are this era of running who were bucking the trend in an NFL that has become a pass-first football league. 162 total touchdowns. You got a guy that's 18,000 yards from scrimmage. Hall of Famer. Again, Emmitt Smith. Now, I'm not a fan of his personally because of a situation, a run-in that I had with Mr. Smith. But you can't take away what he did. I mean, 175 total touchdowns, 21,500 yards from scrimmage. Emmitt Smith, one of the greatest running backs of all time. Walter Payton. Come on now, guys. Come on now. Walter Payton, in the same breath as a guy like Barry Sanders, who one of my friends was a diehard Barry Sanders fan. I've my dad's generation, diehard Walter Payton fans because of what he could do. Sweetness. What can he do? What can he do? I guess was the thing. And the dude passed away at 46 years old. He could have been such a great ambassador for the game. Almost 22,000 all-purpose yards, 125 touchdowns. It's just amazing. And then you look at Barry Sanders, same deal. I mean, he played only 153 games. He had 18,000 all-purpose yards on a team that stunk. The Lions were bad. He carried them. But then you look at Jim Brown, kind of where this conversation started. Only played 118 games, 12,000 rushing yards. That's 5.2 on average. 106 rushing touchdowns, 126 total touchdowns, 15,500 all-purpose yards. And without a shadow of a doubt, a Hall of Famer. And to me, in an era where defenses were built to stop the run, Jim Brown dominated every single one of them. Every single one of them. The list, by the way, athlonsports.com, if you want to check it out. The 25 greatest running backs in NFL history. A lot of them line up with exactly my thoughts on these running backs. So when you look at this, incredible. I know Kristen's excited. She's going to be in tomorrow on the show. We'll have all the our friends from Purple Cat on. She is all about it. Kristen Seiler, I love the bus, and I'm a Browns fan. I don't think those two things can exist, Kristen. You either love the bus because you were a Steelers fan, or you hated him because you were a Browns fan, because he dominated the Clowns for years. Bo Jackson. I don't know that Bo Jackson could have been on the top 10. On this list, Jim, he is actually outside of the top 25. He's on the fringe list with names. Let me see who's on that fringe list real quick. There were some big names on that fringe list. I was actually Frank Gore made the top 25, which I thought was interesting. But for as long as he's played, I think he gets it just from the longevity. Excuse me. Larry Zonka was on that list. Corey Dillon's on that list. Priest Holmes, Bo Jackson, Steven Jackson, Fred Taylor, Herschel Walker, Ricky Waters, and Ricky Williams made the fringe list. So you look at that. I don't necessarily disagree with you with Bo Jackson. I think he was dynamic, but I don't think that Jackson probably had exactly. Yeah, perfect. Just took the words right out of my mouth. He probably didn't have enough the stats before the injury. I'm guessing he didn't. But again, dude he's got a legacy all of his own because he's playing two sports, very high level, at a very high level. Bo Jackson kind of rewrote the book on how to be a pro athlete. So yeah, people that are on the Chubb train, and I don't blame him. I mean, he's a great running back, scary dude. Love when they play Pittsburgh though, because for some reason they never run the ball. No John Riggins. I don't think he's top 10. I don't. He's on the 25 list. I saw his name on there, but he's not, like, to me, he's not a top 10 running back. There's guys on there that I still probably could have been on the top 10, but you start talking about it and you go, are they really? You start really flexing on, Marshawn Lynch, Tiki Barber, Sean Alexander was a stud for a while. Old school, you want to go Jim Taylor, from Green Bay and New Orleans. Terrell Davis from the Broncos. He was unstoppable. Edgerrin James, in a offense that was dominated by Peyton Manning, he somehow still was able to come up with 15,000 yards from line of scrimmage. So again, they said Frank Gore, Franco Harris. Even as a Steelers fan, I don't buy into that. One of the greatest running backs of all time. Here's one I think could probably be in the top 10 easily. Thurman Thomas. And then Riggins. They had Riggins at 15. Dorsett at 14. Gale Sayers, I think, should be on there as well. O.J. Simpson. And they actually had Curtis Martin on the outside looking in at 11. They had Marcus Allen at 10. Yeah, and then it pretty much is straight down what I was thinking along the same lines. Work done? I would venture a guess that if you were to ask the younger generation, so I'm talking not guys, maybe guys that are 25, 30 years old at this point, and you asked them, Mardell, who Warwick Dunn was, the majority of them would have no idea who you're talking about. Hold up a picture of Warwick Dunn and say, who is this? And I guess I'm willing to put Skittles that the majority would not know who that person is. And I don't know if that's an identity thing. I don't know if I don't know what that is. But to me, to be a top 10 guy of all time, you have to have that instant, like, oh my gosh, that's Tom Brady. That's Joe Montana. I don't think that you could hold up a picture of Warwick Dunn and people are going to be able to identify who he is. Maybe 20% of people you ask, and just general sports fans, not like diehards, not people that, are like obsessed. Probably the people you hang around with. I'd give maybe the better part of 50% would be able to tell you who that is. But if you go to a random sports bar and you say, hey, who's this guy? I don't think you got a shot. was just thinking with you saying that Sean Alexander. Yeah, I agree. I still think even with Sean Alexander, I think there's more identification from my generation, more or less because of fantasy football and because of like he was on the cover of Madden. I don't remember the year, but he was on the cover of Madden. Warwick Dunn, I think, is a great football player, but I think he's better known for what he did off the field, especially nowadays, than what he did on the gridiron. And I think he continues to do it, if I'm not mistaken. And I love Warwick Dunn. I think he's phenomenal. I think what he does for the people that need homes and the people that are underprivileged, I can't tell you how much that means to me. And but again, I think that's a product. It's same with. I think Warwick Dunn's the guy that said that he would rather do that stuff. Football was a way, a catalyst for what he wanted to do off the field. And I think Curtis Martin's the same way. Those guys are kind of two peas in a pod, if I remember correctly. So very cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. And to kind of put a pin in the point, so to speak, Browns fans, relax. Okay? Just relax. It's not as bad as you think, and it's sure as hell not as good as you think right now. Enjoy your Victory Tuesday. Enjoy it. Drink your coffee or whatever you drink, to get excited about this team. You're not going to the playoffs. It's not happening. You're probably going to get way worse from this point on because you have an unbelievable schedule in front of you. An unbelievable schedule. Enjoy this. Come to peace with it. Get zen because you are about to fall off an incredible cliff. And Nick Chubb can't help you. Jim Brown at this point could not help you with where you're about to go. And just be ready for it because we've been the last 24 hours. I've seen my timeline as well as everybody else's. I'm almost 100% sure that you're living on both sides of the spectrum here. And my team is terrible, and my team's going to win the Super Bowl just because you beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Just relax. Just relax. Netflix and chill, right? Eddie George. Great one. Great. Still not in the top 10. All right. At least mine. Jim, he can be in your top 10. You can have your top 10 that will consist of John Riggins, Eddie George, and Bo Jackson. There's a three. I'm not telling you where to put them, but you can put them wherever you'd like. We're gonna get to this topic because at the beginning of the day, right? Everybody starts with at the end of the day. I think everybody needs to be very, 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 and I mean. And I'm not trying to over dramatize this. People have to be very concerned about what is coming. And if you don't know what is coming, you need to read up. There's a huge lack of officiating in our state. And it's not just in our state, it's nationwide. In fact, according to, I'm going to cite my source here, NFHS.org, in an article they published in February 16th to be exact, there is a loss of 50,000 officials nationwide. And the NFHS, of course, it's published on their website, are trying to organize a consortium to find solutions. So we're going to have our own little consortium here to find solutions. So they talk about numbers. They talk about numbers. Between 50 and 60,000 officials have expressed an interest in officiating in the past 4 years through NFHS's hashtag Become an Official program. But the number of officials actually coming through the front door don't come close to those numbers going out the back door. So what they're saying is they've got 50,000 officials that are coming in, 50 to 60,000 officials that are interested, but an absorbent amount of officials that are saying, we're done. Whether it be retiring because of age, whether it be saying we're not going to do it because of one reason or another, coaches, fans, players, general disrespect, general frustration, assignments. There's an incredible amount, and they didn't put a number in this article of how many, but do the quick math, and it's if they're getting 50,000 and they're still 50,000 short, that means that they're losing double that. They're losing 100,000 officials, and they're only getting 50 back. So when you look at this, yes, there's great opportunity. We're living in basically whether you're on the fence or not, we're living in a quote unquote recession. We're living in a kind of a time where employers, or I guess employees, can call their shots against employers. I know that officials in the Cleveland area have made a push to be paid more. I would imagine that that is going to be the domino effect throughout not only the state, but the country, that they want paid more to do the same. That's the kind of way we're living right now. And without making this a political driven show, what I would say is employees are calling the shots. And if you don't pay them, if they don't, or if they're not compensated, they can either talk about it or walk about it. But the problem with officiating is if you lose officials, who's going to call your games? This isn't the scenario in the summer where if an umpire gets hurt or doesn't show up or whatever, that, you know, dad can come off the bleachers, grab a mask and grab that foam protector that he puts right here and call balls and strikes and try to do it to the best of his ability right down the line. This is varsity sports where there is money involved. There are finances. There are resources involved. That is, I'm just going to go out and say it, life-changing. Life-changing. And again, people are going to say, well, you're being dramatic. You're overemphasizing this. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Every team that wins a state championship, they're celebrating. What's the second conversation that happens? We can win this every year. We won it in 22. We can win it 23, 24, and 25. Look at the guys we have coming up. So then those dreams become realized because now you know the efforts that go toward winning a state championship. And whether that dream happens or not, but imagine if in a state championship scenario, let's take football, for example, because that's the season we're in. Instead of, what do they usually have? 5? So they have 4, 5 typically officials. What do you got 5 dads out there? What if you got 5 dads out there for the home team? And they're running the chains. They're calling holding. We're headed for that. That is an alternative. But I'll tell you what the alternative, for me, what these guys, what we're really looking at is for these guys to make a lot of money on Thursdays, on Fridays, and on Saturdays. Football, to me, in Ohio, has two things that are for certain. Friday night is not going to be the only night that we play football. And the OHSAA, at some point in the next decade, is going to do away with 16 teams, and they're going to let everybody in. It's a business now, folks. It's been a business, not as big a business, but with the kind of, formulation of, we can make revenue. We can generate revenue from high school sports. And listen, I'm there. I'm here. I get it. I'm just as guilty. We are a business, but we are a business of sports, not reinventing the wheel, but doing our own thing. And I'll defend that 100%. We saw an empty seat and we took it. Whereas others look at what they're bringing to the table and they, in their eyes, and some others, deserve more because of what they do, because of how pivotal they are to a game. Now, as a business person, I can tell you what I would say. The first conversation out of my mouth would be this. If you're asking for more money, then you need to get better at your job. More efficient, or just, quite frankly, better. I saw a video. I'm going to tell you about two instances that I saw in this past week. One is really good, and one is horrendous. We always start with the bad news first, right? So I saw a video of where there was, I don't know where this was. I don't know how this was, but there was a streaming or a TV game where they were looking at the officials, and the officials were measuring out a first down. And the referee physically had the chains pulled out, took the football, moved it forward, put it down instantly, and marked first down. He moved it forward 6 inches to a foot, threw his arm out, signaling a first down. I watched that clip probably 150 times, no exaggeration, and thought to myself, if I'm a coach on either sideline and that happens, and that is on television or streamed, I'm losing it. But how do these coaches, how are they supposed to act? Because right now, I feel like with the majority of officials, you kind of have to walk on eggshells a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it's not that they are quick on the trigger to toss people or eject people, but they just had enough. They've had enough. And I'll be honest, I'm down there every so often, and I hear some of the not all coaches. I hear some of the coaches, and they are riding these officials on a play-to-play basis like they are Seabiscuit. It is incredible. And the coaches are never wrong from that standpoint, right? Because they want to stick up for their guys. And they want to help the case, help the cause, I guess. But I've never heard a coach say, you know what, ref, you got that one right. You got that one right, until it's something that favors that team. Now, there's coaches out there, I'm sure, that are super understanding of how difficult an official's job can be, no matter the sport. But my golly, if you're ever down on a sideline, there are coaches, again, And now here's the crazy part. There are players that are giving the official an earful. And let's not get started on the parents from the stands that all have their officiating certificates, apparently, to be calling everything from almost a football field away. The officiating shortage is coming, and I understand why it's coming. Do you? We'll take a break. We'll talk more about this when we come back. I want to hear your comments. Do you understand about this officiating? I'm not asking who you're siding with. I'm asking, do you understand that it's coming? What are some of the solutions that you would have? Do you want to see football played on Saturdays, Thursdays, or do you just want to keep it on Fridays? All that and more coming when we return on the Ysn Power Hour, brought to you by these great sponsors.
I support police funding, securing our borders, and parental rights in education. I'm attorney Mark Hanni, the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. I will always follow the law.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mark Hanni judge. Dave Johnson, chairman.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
I'm Mark Hanni, a conservative Republican. I believe in family values, the Second Amendment, and our Constitution. Vote for the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. Protect your rights. Vote Hanni for judge.
Hey, and welcome back to the Ysn Power Hour, powered by Athletics in the Athletics studios here. I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors, of course, forever and always, for always having our back. Special shout out to NBC Heating and Cooling. Chrissy stopped by today. We will have the Crestview volleyball game for you on Thursday, and of course the Wellsville game for you. And they are just so gracious. Our sponsors are so gracious when it comes to that, because they want to see these kids seen, I guess. They want to see these games, and they want the communities to see these games. And we're so fortunate to have these great relationships with all of our great sponsors and supporters. So thank you all very, very much. Mark Hanni as well, hopping on for a week or so here up until elections. And we want to say thank you for his support. And obviously, one of those situations where he knows how many people we reach, and you should too. I mean, we're at 5.2 million views on our year-long voyage here between January 1st and December 31st, and we can't thank you guys anymore for being part of that. And again, we got some breaking news over the break. We will have all 15 games for you, all 15 games. So what does that mean? Who does that mean? Let me get to it for you right here, right quick, and we'll talk about it. Not the games, but who we will have coming up on Friday, November 4th. We talked about it yesterday. Aurora and Canfield. Richie will have that game for you. All these games right now start at 7 o'clock. We will let you know if anything changes. Talmadge and Ursuline. Romo will have that game for you. Struthers and West Branch. Michael G., as in Mikey Janaki and Aaron Mosier, Amo, will have that game for you. Canton South and Beaver Local, Mikey McKenzie and Chris Sigler will have that one for you. Jefferson and Girard, we're cleared to go. Pat and Jordan will have that game. Then we go to South Range in Garrettsville, Garfield. I'll have that game for you alongside the G Unit, Mr. Gary Niddle. Jamie and David will have the Cardinal Mooney at Norwayne game, along with United and Kirtland. We are cleared for that. Sam and Ryan will have that for you live from Kirtland. We're excited for that game. Brookfield and Dalton, we're cleared for that. Matt Morrison and Johnny O will have that game for you. Cuyahoga Heights at Valley Christian. Alec Caberna will be flying Han Solo on that journey as the War Eagle will try to get things going against Cuyahoga Heights. Springfield JFK, Dom O'Brien has that one covered for you from Liberty. Norwalk St. Paul at Southern. Larry Scragg will have you up and down the dial for that. And Lucas and Lowellville, we've got Noah and CJ. 15 games total. And ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're not excited about that, I don't know how to get you excited about it. $9.99 gets you 15 games. And this just in. Been working on this with Brian for a week now. We are going to extend the $9.99. So if you pay for the game, you can watch the game for 24 hours or all the games for 24 hours after the game happens. Okay, so we're going to extend it to about midnight on Saturday night, Sunday morning, whatever that is. So if you're watching the game, you like what you're seeing, and man, I really wish I could have seen the Mooney game. You can flip over to the Mooney game on Saturday morning and watch it free of charge if you already purchased the $9.99 Power Play Power Pass. So I think that's a really cool add-on. We're trying to do right by the fans, trying to do right by our customers, so to speak. So hopefully you enjoy that, because I know that's one thing that somebody said, and I said, well, that makes sense. That makes an awful lot of sense, because if you're watching in the stands, being able to watch that game again or screen grab it, we love when you guys do that. Show it off on social media. So just let you know that those games will be available for 24 hours after you purchase them, after the games are over, I guess. So probably till, like, again, midnight, Saturday night, Sunday morning. So give me Liberty. Give me a drink. Here we go. Really looking forward to seeing Warren JFK Springfield. And, of course, our stadium, of course, in your stadium. And then also excited to see Struthers West Branch. Yeah, I think those are two great games. We talked about when I did my interview with Dana Balish for 21, we talked about Springfield and JFK and how, 2 years ago, these were teams that we were talking about in Division 6 and Division 7 in the state championship. And now they're meeting in week 12 in the second round of the playoffs, which, again, I'm a big experience guy when it comes down to experience in the playoffs. And you got teams that have played, 13, 14 weeks consistently for the past 3-4 years. I don't think that there's much of a bigger game than that. Those two teams that are experienced teams, guys that have been watching on the bench patiently, waiting, guys that have been active for a few years on those lines, waiting for an opportunity. And now we're going to have, for all intents and purposes, a bloodbath between those two teams, because I think that, again, I know what they're talking about. We'll talk about the point spreads tomorrow with Richie. But, guys, I don't see this being a blowout one way or the other. I'd be shocked. Because that Springfield defense is legit. Ryan Carcelli is a legit, could be D1 running back. Colton Rourke has found himself. Dylan Shealy, outstanding. You go to the other side of the ball. Rossi, Hadley. I mean, my dude TV, Thomas Valent. Unbelievable the season he's having. I'm so excited. I'm amped up. There's a lot of games that I'm really fired up for. And if you look at the brackets, again, Richie and I like to look ahead, and we start playing the Can You Imagine If game. The 13th week of the season, ladies and gentlemen, it could be like Christmas. Some of the matchups that we have to look forward to, no matter who wins, this could be Christmas especially for us here at YSN. So saddle up, $9.99 again this week. Hope you can you take advantage of that. And again, we're going to be rolling that all the way up until Saturday at midnight, Sunday, whatever you want to call it. I keep getting called out for these. I think it's midnight is still night to me because most of the time I'm still awake. But I can understand why people think it's morning at 12 a.m. So that is going to be cool. All right. Janaki comes in and says, a little history for you. West Branch 0-3 all time against Struthers with the last meeting coming in 2019. Look at Mikey G with a little history lesson. I like it. I don't think that West Branch necessarily likes that stat. Struthers probably pretty proud of that. But I think that's going to be another cat fight. That is going to be another cat fight between two absolute dogs. Dogs. A little suspicion around that game, too. So there's some question marks around that game. Is Drew DeShields going to be all right? Is he going to make the start? How healthy is he? Struthers' defense is going to test that. If 12 comes out, guaranteed they're testing very early what Drew's going to be able to do. That could bite them in the butt. Drew DeShields he's a dog. Is he going to be able, or how long will it take him, I should say, to get where he's usually at? We've seen him do unbelievable things when he is injured, close to what he can do when he is 100%. Let's get to Siggy. I see him popping in a little bit, and we'll get to Mardell here as well. Now that these guys, and he's talking about the officiating, as we were talking about before the break. Now that these guys may work varsity games Thursday and Saturday, how does that affect working other levels now, which some did? That is a great point. That is a great point. Junior varsity will be affected greatly. Freshman games affected greatly. Because I don't think a referee is going to want to make an all-day thing of it, or at least and not get paid for sitting around from the time you have a junior varsity game, let's say at 9 a.m., until the time you have a varsity game at 7. It's going to be interesting. I think JV goes away if that's the case, which is going to be a shame because kids still need reps. Kids still need reps. All right. Siggy says Beavers going for their first appearance in the regional semis since 2003. That was the year after I graduated from high school, because I always have to remember, we all have to remember, we graduate in the spring, and of course, football is in the fall. So the Beavs, which we think are one of the hottest teams in all of the YSN family right now, Siggy says going for their first appearance in the regional semi since 2003, almost a 20-year journey to get back in the regional semis for the Beavs. And of course, they got their hands full with Canton South. So we'll see how it goes. Rocky Lombardi says, how do you feel about the Steelers getting rid of Claypool? That doubles up. I want to give credit here as well to my man Mardell, because he also said, did you see the Claypool trade? I did. And what I will say is, bye. See ya. Great talent. Unbelievable talent. Cannot stop running his mouth. I despised, I think it was 2020. Was it and you guys can help me out here. Was it the year that we had COVID that he just would go on these, very much like I do, these tangents and like clapped out the Browns and you know, I hope they lose. Like, shut up. Like, stop. What are you doing? You're a professional. I'm going to make an assessment here. And I'm getting beat up for this a little. Like, I'm a Steeler fan. Have been a Steeler fan since I was cutting out fake jerseys and construction paper in second grade. I do cheer for other teams, mostly because of the players, right? I cheer for Josh Allen because I think he is a world-class dude. I cheer for guys that give back. Warwick Dunn. I cheer for these guys because they get, like, Cam Hayward, JJ Watt. I buy their jerseys not because I'm a fan of the team, but because I'm a fan of the person. I digress. You couldn't catch me dead in a Chase Claypool Steelers jersey. It just would never happen, because since that guy has been drafted, and he's a Notre Dame guy, which I don't really understand, because as much as I don't necessarily like Notre Dame, I've got nothing against them. I respect the hell out of Notre Dame because of the kind of people they produce in that prestigious university. It's really about them for me. And what Claypool, he reminds me of somebody that if you didn't know he went to Notre Dame, you'd think he went to Miami or a school that has like that puffy chest, like, we're better than you, but they don't do anything. I never liked Claypool. I liked that he was it could be a star, but once I realized kind of who he was, and people will say, well, what about Ben Roethlisberger? You're a huge Roethlisberger fan. Yeah, I am. But he was my quarterback. He was from Ohio. That, like, you get to, and this is everybody's personal opinion, you get to, like, attach yourself because, like, just like when you're watching superhero movies, like, you find yourself in a superhero, or you find yourself, like, personal traits that you like about that person that maybe you want to be like. I'm not saying I wanted to be like Ben Roethlisberger. I said this before a zillion times, and I'll say it again. Love him as my quarterback. Wouldn't want him in my family Christmas portrait, like, maybe now he seemed to change over a leap a little bit. Doesn't swear. Seemed to be when he took that hat and turned it around. He changes his whole demeanor, and obviously he had a lot that he was going through. But I think we're going to find Chase Claypool is not nearly who you want in your locker room. It reminds me incredibly of Antonio Brown after the hits. If you do a little research on Antonio Brown prior to what I think was just him going crazy, you'll find that he was on Facebook Live autographing shirts, for kids and sending them out. And he had his own hustle he was doing with chest up, eyes up, prayed up, that I admired so much. The dude's out there hustling, working after all that stuff. And then either, there's a couple different routes you can take. Either fame got the best of him, or the head trauma. Dude just went nuts. He needs help. So how do I feel about the Steelers getting rid of Claypool? I'm excited for it. I'm excited they got a second-round draft pick, same as what Mardell says. They get a second-round draft pick for him. It's a heavy draft for receivers. Hell, if you can get anybody out of the Ohio State locker room, you'll be fine. And that's coming from a guy that's not a huge Ohio State fan. But there's receivers at this point are starting to be like running backs used to be. They're starting to be like a dime a dozen. And not to mention the Steelers still have a weapon in Calvin Austin that they never even used this year. The dude was injured reserve and his season's over. So I think they're going to be able to replace him. George Pickens is I think, going to be an absolute star in this league. We don't need Chase Claypool taking away reps from guys that can do damage just because he wants to sit there and do his first down and run the clock out so the Steelers can't win. So bye, Chase. But I also understand that the Steelers got a cornerback, a defensive back from Washington for next to nothing. They had to swap picks. And he was a first-round draft pick that they were trying to get, and they ended up getting like Artie Burns because this guy got picked by Cincinnati 6 years ago. So, But that's another story that Mike Tomlin really likes his guys and will give anything for them, even if it doesn't work out in other places, which also concerns me because they don't work out in other places and he still likes them. So I've got some questions around Mike Tomlin, but I've got more questions around our offense from that standpoint because Matt Canada sucks. Like, I've never called an offensive play. Well, I take that back. I called offensive plays from the Penn Ohio game because Sean Guerrero let me. I could call better plays than Matt Canada, and I've never called a real play in my life. And here's another note for Steelers fans, so people don't think that I'm just trashing Browns. Najee Harris, shut your mouth. Like, you sound like a baby. You sound like a spoiled brat saying that you can't do everything yourself. Running backs can't do anything by themselves. We understand that. We get that. Like, any football fan understands. Any football person understands that running backs, quarterbacks, receivers can't do everything by themselves. Shut your mouth. Like, you are a spoiled brat, an absolute brat, and you sound like it. You sound like a punk that you had a great season last year, and now you're not having a great season, and you don't want the accountability. You want to talk about accountability, it starts with you, Najee Harris. It starts with you. And saying that you can't block for yourself sounds stupid. Like, you sound like a brat. So maybe you're the next to go. Maybe you need some bench time so you can let running backs that aren't nearly as talented as you show you how to run the football. That's all I'm saying. You were drafted in the first round. You should be doing a lot better by yourself than you are right now. Not every play is a scoring play. Go 5-6 yards and then get tackled. That's what you're paid to do. That's it. I'm paid to talk about you. That it is. There it is, Najee. Here's the burner account from 4-4. By the way, Najee Harris needs to run straight ahead instead of, yep, there it is. How about we stop trying to jump over everybody like you did in college? Like, that move doesn't work. You're not 6'5". You're not jumping over everybody. Everybody knows what you're going to do. You are literally as good as, straight up, Trent Richardson. That's not good, dude. That's not good. So bad. Matt Canada has caused this whole situation with this horrible play calling. Players have to execute still, and I don't think that I'm a Kenny guy. I don't think Mitch got a fair shake, if we're being honest. Robinson first round next year. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even know if this guy's eligible, but watching that Ohio State game, just saying, 44 is a dog. And he's Hawaiian or Samoan or whatever. We like our Samoans in Pittsburgh. Chris Fuamatu Umatafala, Troy Polamalu. Like, let's go. Give us a whole, bring the Rock. Everybody that's Samoan, welcome. Open training camp for Mike Tomlin. Just have a Samoan training camp. Take all of them, put them on the offensive line, and I bet you we end up with a winning record. Problem solved. Problem solved. Put a couple of them on defense too. They'll jump over the pile. They're nuts. They're born. Their DNA is they are warriors. Why wouldn't you want 53 of those guys? Well, 52. Well, maybe 53. Tua Tagovailoa. I like him now. I'm liking him. You know who I really like? Jalen Hurts. And even more, even though he did it to my guys, you know who I really like? AJ Brown. This guy can't cover me. You can't cover me. That's cool. You get flagged, that's fine. You score 3 touchdowns, you can get a 15-yard penalty. I'm giving that up. You got your rights. If I'm a coach, you're not happy about it, but you go, hey, well, he's put 20 points on the board for us. Meh. If you got more points than you do penalty yards, okay, you're in. that's going to wrap it up for our show today. I know we got off topic a little bit, and I appreciate that. I love I love the comments. I love being able to do this for you guys. Really, there's some days that are harder than most, and I know what we do isn't life-saving, but I hope you get, if you're not watching for an hour, that's cool. I hope you get 10 minutes to check out the show, and I hope it brings a smile to your face, and I hope it breaks you away from whatever you're trying to get away from. And I really hope that it gives you another a little bit of a boost for sports, especially locally. That's our goal. We want people to fall in love with local sports, and I hope we're doing our job. So we thank you for this opportunity to do this every day for you. God bless you. Have a great Tuesday. We will see you tomorrow with the whole kit and caboodle and Richie Giuliano as well, right here on the Ysn Power Hour. We'll see you tomorrow about 23 hours from now, right here on your sports network. Ysn thanks you for watching this presentation